Hello everyone, and welcome back to Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at the Kitakaze, the Tier 9 gunboat scout cruiser on the Japanese line. I do say scout cruiser, and I'm talking about the role this ship plays. I classified it as a destroyer or a gunboat destroyer in this line. Now, I have enjoyed the Akizuki quite a bit. If we're looking at the tech tree for the Japanese, we see that at Tier 5, starting with the Kitakaze, there's a secondary line. Now the thing is, it's slightly misleading. Up and including to the Shiratsuyu, this is not a gunboat line. This is just another torpedo boat line. Starting at Tier 8 with the Akizuki, we get a very, very different kind of ship, which can actually play the scout cruiser role of long-range gunnery. She's got 100mm guns and long-range HE spammy sort of ship is what the role goes on there, and it continues through the Kitakaze up to the Harugumo. The Kitakaze herself, and this is my Kitakaze, my personal one. I'm not playing on press for a change. The Kitakaze was meant to be a successor to the Akizuki class. In reality, the Japanese never got around to building the ship, but the Akizukis themselves were an attempt to have destroyers that had more AA capability. So in theory, the 127mm guns that the Japanese were sailing with would have been somewhat dual purpose, but in practice this never really worked because they didn't have the elevation and a rate of fire to make anything happen. So they did switch to a lower caliber dual-purpose gun, and the main purpose of the Akizukis would have been escorting carrier groups and carriers themselves, and lending air defense, because as the Japanese learned the hard way, air is where it is at. So in practice, the Kitakazes were never built because, well, the war was not going in the favor of the empire, so at that point it was, they just didn't get around to it anymore. So these never really happened as a successor to the Akizuki class. But in here, we still can play the ship. So how does she differ from the Akizuki? They have the exact same skill set. We get two engine boosts, 2 smokes, and 2 torpedo reloads, but it's only smoke 1 and it's only engine boost 1. So 24 seconds on the smoke 1. The Kitakaze has a little bit more hit points. The maneuverability, for all intents and purposes, is pretty similar. The guns are almost identical. So the only difference being that we get half a kilometer more range on the Kitakaze. The torpedoes is where the main difference sits. This line is known to have a very long base torpedo reload. That's why you have the torpedo reload booster. The Kitakaze gets a 6 torpedo launcher, a sextuple torpedo launcher. The torpedoes do marginally more damage, have a slightly better flatting chance, but also take longer to reload. So with the reload booster active, you get a higher burst torpedo load than you would otherwise have. She gets marginally better AA, and the concealment is a little bit worse. So this is a very, very gentle progression from Tier 8. I would say in most regards this is playing very much like an Akizuki at Tier 9. For destroyers, Tier 9 matchmaking is not as terrifying as for battleships, because battleships are facing the extreme caliber progression that you see starting in Tier 9 and 10, that you don't get if you're playing in Tier 8. Whereas for destroyers, it's not as terrifying. I mean, honestly, if you're being chased by a Seattle or by a Worcester, it's not that huge of a difference, or by a Neptune or a Mino. So for destroyers, it's less of an issue, I find, generally, to be in these tiers. So what is then the difference between the Kitakaze and the Harugumo, going up to Tier 10? Well, the Harugumo gets 3 smokes, 3 engine accelerators, and can have a legendary equipment. We'll get to that in more detail if I actually eventually get to the Harugumo. And the Harugumo otherwise is getting another gun turret, slightly better guns in general. They're exactly the same guns, they just get slightly better stats. And the torpedoes are very, very similar. So the AA is a little bit better, but still not massive, and the concealment is progressively worse. So these 3 ships, the Akizuki, the Kitakaze, and the Harugumo, are very similar ships. It's a very steady progression of just adding a little bit more of the same. Which brings us to the setup. Kitakaze. You can get more torpedo damage and more chance of flooding. Honestly, I prefer the advanced engine because these are not the fastest ships to begin with. And like I said, these are scout cruisers. These are not your typical destroyers. They usually play at mid-range, trying to set things on fire. And they're not necessarily close-range destroyers. Regardless, I prefer to have a bit more speed and acceleration in these things. I am actually using the main battery mod 2, sorry. You could use the torpedo reload, but honestly, it's not going to make a huge difference, and you do increase the chance of your torpedo tube being shot off, singular, because you only have one. Obviously, the propulsion mod, and I'm using concealment because it is still you still need your stealth, but playstyle-wise, I would say it's pretty much an ultralight cruiser without a citadel. If for some reason you want to have the historical camo and want to spend 5,000 gold on it, gives you range on both the main battery and the torpedoes, surface detection and traverse. All good things. Probably will not be keeping the ship because there's just no uniqueness value. I am keeping the Akizuki at tier 8, definitely, because tier 8 is just a very comfortable tier to play in. And probably get rid of the tier 9 once I make it up towards the Harugumo. I think I've gotten a new commander onto this ship. Honestly, the most important skill that you can probably have is the Mistweaver and the Engine Overload. So these 2 are important. The guns are extremely low caliber, which means that and they're Japanese guns, which means that you are probably not necessarily going to be using the armor piercing an awful lot against enemy destroyers. Personally, I don't. I find that there's not a huge difference in what they do. I might have to try that at some point. I might get the APCS and see if that makes a difference in using armor piercing against enemy destroyers. Because honestly, with a 100mm gun, the penetration improvement on the IFHE is probably not large enough, but it's something I might have to try out and see how things differ and see how things behave. But mostly, you're there to set fires with these things. Okay, so Harugumo. Let's before we play these rounds, I might have to make a little. I enjoy these ships. They are not the best ships out there. But I find these fun ships to play for some reason. Maybe I just enjoy the light cruiser play and not necessarily having a citadel, because I do love my light cruisers. So maybe that's where this comes from. Anyway, let's get into some gameplay. The first game, we are top tier, but there's a carrier in the enemy team, and not just a carrier, there's also a Kearsarge. So there's plenty of planes around. We're up against Shokaku, Kearsarge, Richelieu, Veneto, Saint Louis, Edinburgh, and a USS Kidd. And we're playing base capture on Atlantic. So, see how we can make ourselves useful. We do have a German carrier on our side, and we'll see where he's scouting, and we can still do some scouting duty. But these are not stealth torpedo destroyers. I mean, they can sort of play that because of the long-range torpedoes, but their primary role is more like you would play a very small light cruiser. And I have made video about scout cruiser role and how that differs. So the carrier goes straight, which means I'm going to hang left. And do get some scouting in around those islands over there. And see how I can make myself useful. I do have a cruiser and a battleship following me here, so that's always good to know. We've got an Ibuki. Not the best cruiser against enemy destroyers. There is one cruiser on the enemy team that the carrier has scouted. There's some carrier play. Oh, and there is the kid. So engine boost up, and it looks like the kid is maneuvering. Where is he going? Is he coming through here? I'm not sure, but that's an Ibuki problem, to be honest. No, he's not coming through. So the kid does not want to get through, and I think the carrier has lost most of his planes trying to shoot him down. There's the Kearsarge, so let's make ourselves known and say hello. I'm not yet using the torpedoes, because while the Kearsarge is in a turn, he knows that I'm here now, obviously, which means he's probably going to. And there's the Saint Louis coming as well, and unfortunately he's got the AP loaded. So this range, that is quite dangerous. So we'll be smoking up. There are no bots in play, and we'll see if the enemy carrier still has a lock on me, or if that, yeah, that looks like I'm going to be getting a drop from the dive bombers. Maybe not. This is an AA destroyer, so while he does not get a defensive AA, he's still not terrible in shooting enemy planes down. So that group's gone. I'm not sure if that was the Kearsarge group. There come the Saint Louis torpedoes. The Saint Louis is buggering off, and we're just doing things, destroyer things here. We are setting fires everywhere. Okay, hello, Mr. Kid. Not sure what those torpedoes were. Ibuki is coming in and is not focusing on the kid, but is focusing on the Kearsarge. That is unfortunate. It would be much better if you were focusing on the kid. So let's get that. Yes, thank you. Well, the team listens. That's amazing. Thank you, team. Yes, please. Let's deter this guy. Let's make him run away. And I'm just using the Iowa for tanking. The Iowa can, sorry, the North Carolina. The North Carolina can probably just black the Kearsarge out of the water pretty easily. That thing is way too close. You do not want to play a Kearsarge this aggressively. It has no armor. So I'm going to engage the kid. Unfortunately, Ibuki is sort of sailing away. Rather than, I mean, there is a Kearsarge. It has to have guns. Alright, I'll drop the Kearsarge. One torpedo drop out. And then I'm going to keep the kid engaged. And yeah, Ibuki is, and I think the NC as well, are firing at him, bowing towards the kid. I don't know if he's got torpedoes ready or not, but there is a Saint Louis, so I do have to be a little careful here. Let's get the reload out. Okay, there come the kid torpedoes. We'll drop that on this in the general direction of the Saint Louis. Dodged his first salvo, full ahead, and keep the pressure up on the kid. That's 3 torpedo hits, 4 torpedo hits, and that is Kearsarge gone. Okay, that just leaves the Saint Louis, and I think the kid at this point, yeah, Ibuki is going to take him, or I'm going to take him out with the high explosive shells. Whoever gets there first. The rate of fire is pretty frightening. There we go. So that thing's dead. And as you can see, I can perfectly get the HE shells on target. Unfortunately, that Saint Louis is still there. And I would have really loved if the NC would have been pushing against the Saint Louis. Now he comes under air attack. Yep. Well done, everyone. The flank is open. The problem is, if I'm going to go for the cap now, the Saint Louis is very fast, and that thing's almost full health, and he is coming under carrier attack. But the NC and the Ibuki are pretty far back. So I am going to have to try and kill that thing, because if I'm going to start capping, he knows what I'm doing. If he's playing pretty well for a cruiser. If he sees me capping, that thing is quick and it's got rapid reload, so there's not an awful lot I can do to necessarily deter. So I'm going to try and do something about him. Yep, there come the shots out, and I'm just trying to get him on low enough health that he's not going to be interested in getting the capture circle. Now, unfortunately, there is also a Japanese carrier out there, which is not to be forgotten, and he's running the rapid reload. That is exactly the problem, and he's firing armor piercing against the destroyer, which is good at this range. So I need to shoo him away, and I would have really enjoyed some fire support here from the NC, but I think they're all too far away, and the Saint-Louis is a very fast ship, so he's not making the mistake of trying to close in against the three of us and suicide, but he's doing the smart thing, and he's sailing away, and he's dropping torpedoes, which is really annoying. But okay, we've deterred the Saint-Louis, I think, enough that we can make it into the capture circle. We're 1 kill behind, and our right flank has completely collapsed. So smart play there by the Saint-Louis. Now we're capping, and now obviously the problem starts emerging because there's also a carrier, so there's no way for me to go undetected. And I'm just getting the torpedoes ready, obviously not dropping yet because, you know, the Saint-Louis isn't going to keep sailing straight. He's going to come towards the capture circle. But there comes the carrier, so I'm going to probably have to drop the torpedoes any minute now. Because once the carrier spots me, then I've got 4,000 hit points. The carrier can just kill me. Okay, Saint-Louis doesn't see me. Gets shot at by the Ibuki. The NC is making his way in there, but I don't think we'll have enough time even to... we have enough time to cap. So yeah, there comes the carrier. Nice drop, and I'm on 2,000 HP. There's no way I survive. Either the Saint-Louis kills me or the carrier kills me. And yeah, there's absolutely no way to survive this. I might still get the kill on the Saint-Louis, but we've just lost our Bismarck. The rest of our team is completely collapsed, and I think, yeah, that's Saint-Louis. So I don't get the Vengeance Medal because he wasn't the one killing me, but we pulled one back. Unfortunately, we're a little bit late, and the time's running out before we can manage to cap. If we had maybe 30 seconds more, we would have still been managing to cap them out, but it was just a little bit too late. But that was an engaging game. I had fun, and for me, this is always more important than winning. Playing against that Saint-Louis and seeing him doing pretty well until the very end when he ran to my torpedoes and wasn't paying attention. But generally, playing it pretty smart for a French cruiser was quite good to see. So let's try that again. And in the second game, we are playing against Indomitable, Freddy, Cleveland, and 4 destroyers. Östergötland, a Z, a Terrible, no, actually 3 destroyers. The Kitakaze is not the best ship to deal with enemy destroyers. You'd be kind of tempted to think that because she's got lots of guns, but these are relatively low caliber guns. They are better at setting fires, and they are not also the most precise guns or the most punchy guns because they are just 100 millimeters. So regardless, I am going to head over. We've got Constellation with us. I am going to head over to sea. So generally, you don't want to get into dogfights with enemy destroyers. You don't have the utility or the maneuverability or necessarily the gunfire power to make that happen. So if you're up against something German or something Soviet, that tends not to end well for you. Unless, obviously, you get a torpedo drop on them, but this is tier 9, so, you know, shouldn't really happen all that much anymore. I mean, it still does. Okay, carrier has spotted the Terrible. Now, the Terrible is also a scout cruiser, but the Terrible has got 130mm guns and a rapid reload. And there's a Cleveland. So, no. I do not want to start engaging this group. I'm just going to use the torpedo indicator to see where the Terrible is going. And then we are going to try and turn and get the heck out of here before that Cleveland turns around and let that become a Constellation problem. But the Terrible has not seen me and hasn't been paying attention that he's not the only one in the capture circle. So, surprise! And yeah, you do not have the maneuverability to get out of that one, my friend. Okay, that was nice. And that's why you don't just open up with your guns. And that's why you pay attention to your capture progress. If you're in the cap circle and you're not capturing, then somebody else is in the capture circle with you. Okay, Constellation should be able to take out the Cleveland. So I can cap and then I can make my way over towards the center and help out with a little bit with the other things. What do we have there? We've just lost our Cheshire, who's tried to brawl a Freddy, which with predictable results. And there is said Freddy. So my torpedoes are on reload, and which means and this is a Friedrich der Große, which means I want to smoke up, and I want to start setting some fires and get ready to bugger off as quickly as I possibly can. Just rain death and destruction on that thing, because he's obviously going to try to push. He sees a carrier, and he sees me and he's blind firing, which is a good idea, but I'm not sitting still in my smoke, and the smoke's about to dissipate, so I'm going to get the heck out of here. I've got an engine boost if I need it. That's a double. Is it perma already? Or has he Damacon? I haven't been paying attention. Might be perma at this point. Triple perma. There you go. You're welcome. Engine boost up just to get out of there, but it'll take a while to burn on anti-Damacon the fire, which might not have been a wise choice, because there comes the Hornet. And if the Hornet is timing these torpedo bombers right, then that might hurt. Let's see. There goes the perma flood. There's another perma fire from yours truly, and now I'm just gonna get around the other side. My torpedoes are, I think, reloaded. So if I can get to his offside where his guns are not pointing, then I can, and he hasn't been flooding or burning to death by then I can just torpedo him, but I think he is dead. There's no need to waste the torpedoes. Yes, you still have the 150s on that side, but that does not matter. And now Hornet has survived because I've just been teasing that Freddy into wasting his firepower on me. So that was fun. That's a bot Kagero, so it doesn't matter. We've got nothing else to shoot at. But the enemy team still had on points because they have, but they only have the carrier left at this point. And since we've managed to get our Hornet to survive, thanks mostly to the fact that the Freddy decided to waste his fire blind firing a destroyer who was maneuvering actively in his smokescreen rather than taking out the Hornet. We're now actually leading on points after that kill, and we're going to take recap, and we've still got almost 3 minutes, so that Indomitable is now not in a good position. Also, the Indomitable is not the best ship to dealing with destroyers because of the carpet bombing, level bombing thing that she does. So she now gets hit by the Hornets B-17s, and I am just going to try and set lots and lots of fires, and again using the torpedo indicator to try to figure out where that thing's going. Okay, he is deciding to come around, so I'm going to drop torpedoes. I still have the reload. Yep, he is definitely coming this way, so second spread out, and let's see if I can catch him with the torpedoes before either the Hornet or the Constellation are taking him out. I am detected, so he should probably know that I'm here. I think the first spread might have missed. Nope, it didn't. I love this ship. So, is this a really strong line of ships? Not really. You can do, as you have seen here, you can do a decent amount of fire damage. Like I've done 17,000 points of fire damage. And yeah, we've managed to lose our Cheshire without it doing a single point of damage. But well done on the Hornet. I just enjoy this line. Right? It's not the most powerful line. It's it doesn't hold the damage potential that you have in something like a Yugumo or a Shimakaze, obviously. And it's reasonably easy to shut down if you're playing it wrong. So if you're being aggressive against enemy destroyers, actual destroyers, not scout cruisers, then that can end very badly. Most of the time you'll be playing more at mid-range to longer range, and try to set fires and just try to be a pain in the behind for the enemy team. That's sort of what you want to do. But it's not the most powerful line, but somehow it's fun, and I think that's sort of sums it up for me. It's enjoyable for me to play this line. just from the annoyance factor, just from the fact that you can sail around and just you're not doing an awful lot of damage, but you just never stop. You're sort of the honey badger of destroyers, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that's the Kitakaze for you. And once I made it to tier 10, and we'll look at the Harugumo as well. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.